I would like to welcome you back to the One Trail at a Time podcast. I am your host, Boogie. Today, it's going to be a fun episode. I know right now we're in the middle of a state of emergency and everything that we kind of been watching. I don't even know if you can say we're really watching it. Only thing we're kind of submersed and consumed by it. So we're going to try to not even worry about that today. The only thing that we're going to focus on is me talking about the best time I have ever had on the trail. Earlier on, I did a video on the worst time I had camping. Well, this is the best time. So, a little backstory of about why this was the best time. So, uh, like many adults, you start working, get kind of a desk job, and once you get a desk job, unless you are out what's the best way to put this? If you have a desk job, unless you are specifically going to the gym at night, you tend to suffer in your eating habits and you don't move around as much. Well, I'm a victim of that. I literally didn't for a number of years. I was I wasn't very active because of the shift that I worked. It was very opposite of all my friends, so I couldn't go to the gym like I used to play ball, and it was just really ridiculous. And I'm the type of person where I really don't like to work out by myself, so um, that was my situation. Moving forward, I ended up um, joining a gym. I said, I decided, made up in my mind one day, I am going to get in shape. I don't like the way that I look. I'm going to get in shape. How do you get in shape? Well, you have to go to a gym or something, right? So I just said, uh, I'll take some sort of a martial art class. Let's do something like that. I said, and I'm not going to do kickboxing. I want to get something that's more practical. So I get on the Google, and on the Google, it I don't know what I was looking for exactly, but I saw something called Krav Maga, and I was like, hey, I'll give that a try. I'll see what that's about, and I give the guy a call. I leave him a message, kind of tell him a little bit about myself and what I'm looking to do. He calls me back, really great guy. Um, he tells me, come on in for just, take a free class. And if you like the class, then, consider joining. Okay. It, y- no, you stop. Get up. You staying? Where you going? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You staying? Or you go? Go. Stay. You stay. All right. Go. Bye. So before the sniff police, really great guy. I go to the class and I am really really out of shape. This Krav Maga is different than any other martial art that I have taken. It is from day one. It was go. There was no easing into it. It was go. Well, let me say it wasn't like you look at these old Shaolin temples and the master is kicking your butt because you stepped the wrong way. It wasn't like that. It was more of punch, 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 don't quit, punch, 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 kick, 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 move, roll, scoop, don't quit, just don't quit. from day one, and that's what it was about, and it was great. But let me tell you, the class is an hour long, and I made it through about 20 minutes of it. Okay. The warm up alone, I was in very, very bad shape. The warm up alone, which was a few laps, some sit ups, some push ups, some squats, some some whatever. This warm up wore me out. So it was like 10 minutes of warm up, 10 or 15 minutes in the class, I was done. When I had to go sit in the corner, literally, I had to just sit in the corner, and the guy was like, "Hey, um, I know this was a rough class for you." And I was like, "Look, dude, I'm not a quitter. I'll be back next week." And that's what happened. Went back the next week, and it was better. I paced myself. I knew what I was getting into. I knew what I was getting into this time, so I paced myself. I still struggled through the class, but I didn't sit. I didn't have to sit down. I just stood up and felt like I was gonna throw up. Um, it was all good though, and I went hard for the next couple years. And the more I trained and I took tests to move up, after my first test, after your beginner's test, I used to do a fundamentals test. And though you're still pretty not that great, there's just the beginning chokes and punches and elbows that you need to know so you could get into learning to be just a level one. At the time, they kind of changed the structure, but you used to have to be in a beginner's class just to start training to be the first level. Okay. And after I get out of the fundamentals class, and the fundamentals class, ooh, at the time it was like 3 hours long. It was intense. Now, this is now getting me into the whole trail life. So the best trail story that I have is Taum Sauk Mountain. Taum Sauk Mountain is the highest point in Missouri. It stretches through Iron County. And it travels along the Black River. It's part of the. It's a section of the Ozark Trail. It is great, and the reason why I love this trail, it was so far the hardest trail that I have encountered, and I took it like a champ. Okay, so the day starts off. I get to a later start than I wanted to because I really wanted to hike a long section, but I knew that I really couldn't hike a long section because it's not a loop, it's straight through, and it was just myself. Is this if you're gonna hike Tom Sauk Mountain, you really need to do it with two people. So you can so you can have two vehicles and someone parks their car at the end so you can drive back to the beginning. Because it's not like I said, it's not a loop. And if you wanna do 20 miles one way and then 20 miles back, I might be exaggerating there, but it's like 15 miles maybe, something like that. It's something it's not that bad, but I don't have it in front of me right now, but if you wanna hike the whole thing, you gotta hike the whole thing back, and if you're gonna do one way, I mean, it takes you a couple this is not, super easy terrain. So it's gonna take you a couple days to hike the entire portion of it, okay? That section of Tom Sauk Mountain. Okay, so but I get to the trailhead and I'm moseying along, and I I start experiencing this I started experiencing a much different trail than I'm used to. I literally have places where it's a slight mountain, so there's places where I have to scoop down jagged rocks. I get to overlook I get to overlook a waterfall that was like at the time that was like the best view I had ever had. And It's called Taum Sauk Fall. I make it to Taum Sauk Fall, and it was like the best view I've ever had. It was, at the time, because I really hadn't traveled, and I'm still kinda new to this thing, and I haven't been to the Smoky Mountains or any of that, so this was a great view for me. I get, to some points where you gotta scoot down some rocks. There is some stuff you have to climb over, and I was like, "Man, this is the best time of my life." Now, the thing about Tom Sauk Mountain that's different than any other trail that I've been on is Tom Sauk Mountain, you can actually pretty much camp anywhere as long as you're so far off the trail. And I just that part of the concept I really I couldn't focus in my head. There was um there was a lot of there was a lot of there was a lot of vegetation, I guess that's the word that I'm looking for. There was a lot of vegetation, so I couldn't really see, where people had kinda went off and set up camp, so the easiest camp to set up is one that's already partially done for you, right? So I'm looking for these camps and I can't find anything. And I was just about to say, "Hey, I hiked in pretty far. I'm gonna turn around and I'm gonna just go home." I'm gonna hike back to the car. It was a pretty good hike. I've been out there for a few hours, but I mean, it was still great. I enjoyed it, and I was like, "Look, if I turn around now, I can make it to I can make it back to the car. I will have to hike just a little bit in the dark, but I would make it." And this, to be honest with you, now that I think about it, in reality, hiking that in the dark would not have been a great thing. I mean, it was kind of brutal, and to get twisted up like that could really hurt you. So I made it a little bit past the Devil's Toll Gate when I was gonna turn around, but well, I did turn around. Actually, I did turn around, walked past the Devil's Toll Gate, and I was like, "You know what? Imma head back just in case, I get stuck out here in the dark. I'm really not prepared for that." Mentally, I wasn't prepared to be stuck out in this location by myself, without, knowing where I was gonna really sleep at, okay? So I started hiking back, and as I was hiking back, over to the left, I can see what appeared to be a rock formation, and that was like, "That looks like a fire ring. Let me do some investigating." I walk over, sure enough, it's a fire ring, and I was like, "Boom, this is home for the night. This is home for the night." I set up camp, and I had a great night. There was things that I learned about, my food. This was the first time I went out and I took ramen, and I was gonna, do my cooking in Ziploc bags. I saw all these YouTubers, say, "Hey, this is the way you can save weight," how the ultralight YouTubers talk. And one of the things that they were doing was they were, pretty much crushing up their top ramen and, just boiling water, putting it in a bag. Of course, it's not hot enough for the bag to really melt, but you gotta keep it in another container just in case, because it is gonna be soft and it could burst on you. So, after doing that, I realized that, cooking in plastic is not great. When you are out on a trail and you start becoming one with nature, um, you tend to be able to taste well, you're so tired, and I guess I don't know if it's like you get a greater appreciation for things, but one thing for sure, you do taste everything, and every bite of that ramen that I had, I can literally taste the plastic, and that was a very disgusting meal for that fact, and that was the first for that fact for that fact, and that was the first and the last time I've cooked ramen in the bag like that. So But even still, that experience taught me a lot. Uh, but the biggest thing was I was healthy at that time. My knees were feeling good, even though I was starting to have some slight knee issues. Man, I took it like a champ. There wasn't any ticks out at that time, or at least there weren't any in that area. And the coyote, it was some coyotes howling out there, and it was just beautiful. And this was the first place that I've been to that was like really, really far away from everything. So usually the places, a lot of the state parks that I have been to, they're kind of close to farms and other things. So you can hear um farm animals in the background, or even you may hear a little bit of traffic. Um, but out here, there was nothing. It was tranquil. It was really, really it was the best experience. The stars were out. Um, the stars were out. It was like a half moon, so I didn't get the full moon experience, which I'm glad about. I'm not. I don't really like camping in the full moon. I'm the type of person that I like to sleep in dark situations. I like to sleep in the dark. Uh, f- I don't know if you ever been out in the middle of nowhere, but a full moon is pretty dang on bright, and it's not pleasant for me. But I have a story about an owl, and I'll tell you about that one later. Long story longer. Uh, I get up the next morning. I have me a little bit of breakfast and I prepare to hike on out. And I just remember kicking just joy. I felt like this was the first time in my life that I had been like super duper healthy in a long time, I should say, since my teenage, early 20 years. Um, I was so happy the way that I was taking these I was taking these peaks and climbing up the over the steep rocks and just having a great time. And also at this time, this is when I really started fine tuning my backpack. So I did drop a little weight. I started investing in things. So I did drop some weight in my pack. I got rid of a lot of useless stuff as well. And also, this is also the point when I learned of things that I didn't need, so I really shed some weight there. That was like the biggest point of me um of losing a lot of weight in my pack was learning that I didn't need half the crap that was in my pack. So as I'm hiking out, man, in my head, I'm getting these views in the video. There's not a whole lot of views there, but it's all surreal at the same time. But it just being on this trail, because 'cause you're in the green canopy most of the time, but there are some high points where you can overlook the valleys, and, I regret nothing, and I just remember being on this trail like, "Man, I have never felt this good in my life. I never thought I would be doing something like this in my life, and I regret nothing." I didn't see any wild animals. I think this may have been one of the only times I heard a few birds, but I didn't see any squirrels or anything. So this was it was literally just me. I saw one other person out there, one other couple out there, and that was it. That was it. That's the people that I saw in 24 hours. And it was great. I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of One Trail at a Time. Be good to each other out there, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.